So, in canon, you know Yuji as this ordinary, well, incredibly athletic, high schooler until he eats Sukuna's finger, right? But in this timeline, Kenjaku specifically targets a disowned member of the Zenin clan to be Yuji's mom. Because his body is uniquely built by Kenjaku to house foreign techniques, the Ten Shadows just sits there, dormant, until his cursed energy finally activates. Meaning, on his very first mission, instead of just throwing a solid punch, massive, completely untamed shadow beasts explode out of the floor to defend him.
Now, what's really interesting here is how these Shikigami physically reflect their user. Megumi, he used his shadows as these tactical, highly controlled tools. Yuji's beasts? Yeah, entirely different. They're bigger, they're angrier, and they strike like a literal tidal wave of shadow. Gojo spots this immediately and secretly starts training Yuji to rein these things in, though he strictly hides the existence of Mahoraga, completely terrified that Yuji would lose his life trying to tame it.
And this dynamic introduces our anchor rule for the entire timeline. Listen closely to this one. Yuji eventually unlocks the Roundier Shikigami, which gives him reversed curse technique, but there's a hard limit. You can heal physical wounds, sure, but if Mahito touches your soul with idle transfiguration, it's permanently restructured. Roundier absolutely cannot undo soul damage. Keep that rule in mind, because it dictates everything from here on out.
Moving on to Section 2, the Shibuya Incident Divergence. Let's see how this builds a totally different casualty list.
Before Shibuya even kicks off, the whole board is rearranged. Get this, Junpei actually lives. When Mahito attacks, Yuji's Divine Dog just moves on its own, intercepting the blow and pulling Junpei out of the way before the soul transfiguration happens. Meanwhile, Megumi is completely sidelined. Without his family technique, he grows up as a grade 2 brawler, just relying on raw martial arts and Tonji's genes, harboring this really quiet, simmering resentment. And inside Yuji, Sukuna is furious. Without Megumi as an exit strategy, he's stuck in an inescapable cage.
So tracking the Shibuya fallout under our new anchor rule, it gets dark. Nobara is saved when Yuji's winged Shikigami, Nu, yanks her back just in time. But Nanami and Todo? They still fall victim. Mahito transfigures their souls before Yuji can even blink, making Roundier's healing completely useless. Nanami tragically dies, and Todo loses his arm. Plus, without Megumi's 10 shadows to breach Dagon's domain, now Obito dies trapped inside, and Megumi completely misses that emotional reunion with Toji.
It all comes down to this terrifying reality. Sukuna is a king who cannot leave his prison, and he knows it. During Shibuya, Jogo still force-feeds Yuji that massive dose of fingers, overpowering his control for like 30 minutes. But because Sukuna knows he has zero means of escaping to Megumi's body, his Shibuya massacre isn't some calculated grand exit strategy. It's pure, unadulterated rage. He burns a path through the entire city, and when the clock runs out, he's forced right back into his cage, making Yuji carry the agonizing psychological weight of every single death.
Let's jump to Section 3, Chaos and the Culling Games. And honestly, Yuji arrives as a completely different kind of monster here. While Megumi is out there fighting bitterly for absolutely every inch of survival using pure hand-to-hand combat, Yuji enters the colonies and just dominates. He's wielding a full Shikigami arsenal now. His fights are way bigger, vastly messier, and just way more creative than any of the ancient sorcerers saw coming. Word spreads like wildfire, and Kenjaku is genuinely terrified. He realizes Yuji's sheer willpower is keeping a heavily fed Sukuna completely suppressed. This sets the stage for an epic, inevitable clash with Kashimo.
Looking at this timeline, you can see the terrifying buildup of cursed energy inside Yuji accelerating. We go from that gradual consumption early on to the huge spike in Shibuya from Jogo. But the climax hits in the Culling Games when Kashimo, who is just desperate to fight the King of Curses, overpowers Yuji and literally force-feeds him the final fatal finger.
20. That is the breaking point. At 20 fingers, the accumulated pressure finally just shatters the human soul's limit. Yuji fights it harder than literally anyone else could, but he loses. Sukuna finally breaches Yuji's internal defenses and seizes total uncontested control of the ultimate vessel.
Which brings us to Section 4, Reimagining the Strongest Clash. Sukuna is fully resurrected.
The stage is set perfectly for the Coalition's counterattack. Angel uses Jacob's ladder to unseal Gojo, Takaba runs his massive distraction so Yuta can assassinate Kenjaku, but Gojo comes home to an absolute nightmare. Sukuna is just waiting for him in the ruins, fully uncontested inside Yuji's body, and wielding arguably the most terrifying combo of cursed techniques in history: the 10 shadows, his own shrine, and blood manipulation.
Now, remember in canon how Sukuna callously used Megumi's soul as a meat shield for Gojo's unlimited void? Well, here, Sukuna has absolutely no buffer. He has to bear the excruciating, brain-scrambling burden of Mahoraga's adaptation cycles entirely on his own soul. It takes way longer, and it demands a massive physical toll on him.
The outcome is still incredibly tragic. Gojo's death remains absolutely devastating, but, and this is a huge but, because Sukuna had to tank those domain adaptations himself, Gojo's sacrifice leaves the King of Curses incredibly vulnerable. Sukuna crosses the finish line of this fight way more drained and damaged than he ever was in the original story. The Coalition is waiting in the wings, and they finally have their opening.
And that leads us right into Section 5. The final Shinjuku showdown. It's time to reclaim Yuji.
What follows is just the ultimate, flawless team play. It's not a brawl, it's a surgical strike. Yuta, who's piloting Gojo's body, alongside Choso, completely drains the last dregs of Sukuna's reserves. Then Todo steps in. He's adapted his boogie-woogie into the Vibrous Slap, swapping positions up to 50 times per second. It's total disorientation. In that exact split-second window, Angel fires Jacob's ladder, not to kill the body, but to surgically cut the seal clamping Sukuna's soul to Yuji. Feeling this, Yuji violently rips himself back to the surface from the inside out.
And the aftermath is absolute. Sukuna's soul is forcefully evicted. Since every single finger was consumed earlier, he has 0 anchors left in the physical world. The King of Curses literally just dissipates into nothingness. Yuji survives the ordeal, and because his body was the vessel, he walks away as the only sorcerer in history to hold 3 absolute powerhouse techniques at the exact same time: 10 shadows, shrine, and blood manipulation.
So we know Yuji eventually unlocks his domain expansion, right? But the mechanics of it are left a mystery. I want to leave you with this one question to chew on. If Yuji Itadori commands the physical durability of a death painting, the cleaving power of Sukuna's shrine, and the overwhelming tidal wave Shikigami of the 10 shadows, what unimaginable terror does his complete domain expansion actually look like? It's a truly chilling thought about the absolute peak of Jujutsu sorcery to ponder long after this explainer ends. Thanks for diving into this timeline with me, and keep questioning the possibilities.